All right, it is currently 11:50 a.m. and this is called relevant positioning. And this is what waste management was engaged in as well. Relevant positioning, that is being present in the path in the specific environment. The specific environment isn't a natural one. It is that which is facilitating mass monitoring by a public entity. And the entity engages in what is maintaining that specific environment with iterations of light activity. That's what waste management is engaging in via a dumpster truck. That dumpster truck's activity in the specific environment is amplified while they are in the path. This is intentional in the specific environment. This is malice that the people of the state exercise and demonstrate while they are monitoring group stalking and also engaging in what is terrorism and also the sexual violence. So this shall be the prosecution of the people of the state who are in the shoes of the government engaging in what is that sex offense committed by a public entity. This is going to be the recognition of a public entity as a sex offender while it's engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, and the people of the state and companies shall be prosecuted as sex offenders. That's going to be recognized because that's exactly what they're doing. That's what federal group stalking and monitoring is. It's an exceedingly violent sex offense, and it is terrorism that the people of the state shall be documented. The reason why I'm choosing this time frame 11:50 a.m. For purposes of making a vivid illustration for you. Not only do you see waste management engaging in what is the pattern of conduct, you see the Los Angeles Police Department swarming around me over my head while I'm documenting not only the people of the state and their group stalking and doing so, and they're also doing so with simultaneity to my publishing documentation on the internet. That is the entity that is engaging in criminal monitoring and continuously posing a threat while they're monitoring the documentation, also by the people of the state. That's going toward the prosecution of the people of the state. In other words, Yolanda Ledesma is going to sit in federal prison longer once my documentation, the evidence of her engagement in the criminal elements of monitoring, the fact that she lives at a crime scene, the fact that she is demonstrating what is ongoing malice and impunity by virtue of that fact, and her documented engagement on more than one occasion, in addition to what is the ongoing threat to my life that I'm subject to while I then upload documentation, publish it, and the entity proceeds to threaten my life with more corrupt engagement with stalking and helicopters flying over my head and flying all around. This is exactly what the entity is doing. For example, when I documented third-party group stalker Don Noggle. All right, there is no exception, and it's going directly toward the punishment of the people, and you're understanding the threat that they pose to the life and the physical safety and the well-being of the targeted individual, who, by the way, is actually enforcing their rights. And this threat is going to be in every way thwarted because American citizens will be able to enforce their rights. You are understanding the nature of that entity and why that severe federal policy is necessary. Speaking to the disbandment, you're going to disband such law enforcement agencies such as Fontana Police Department, the Ontario Police Department, the Montclair Police Department, the Los Angeles Police Department. There is no name that is so big or so great. They have not been revealed as engaging in what is literally terrorism in the United States, and this is something that's unfortunately to be news around the world, but maybe not so much though. I feel like it's American citizens that don't really know what our own government is engaging in. And it is so profound that it needed to be shown so you can witness with your own eyes and ears what an entity is doing. And so while you're looking at the LAPD fly over my head and fly all around me in relevant position, it's 11:50 a.m. and I also want to remind you what is already documented. This is another vivid illustration of what waste management, what smart janitorial. And remember, it's not just the company names, it's those that are specifically operating present in the name of that third-party group stalker business, okay? They will be going to federal prison, and that business will be subject to civil and criminal prosecution. Understand that. But at 11:50 a.m., you are looking at third-party group stalker, the Fontana Police Department, who's engaging in what is another iteration of terrorism by a demon-possessed and corrupt police department that is engaged in group stalking at the Fontana Lewis Library at 11:50 in the morning, and they are maintaining presence in the path. They are group stalking. They are communicating a threat, intentionally doing so through corrupt law enforcement agencies who bear weapons, who engage in what is flying helicopters to engage in terrorizing the target individual, and they do so by virtue not only by virtue of the identity of the entity, but the entity likes to engage in such methods of terrorism and harassment and inflicting fear and torment to the creating both psychological and emotional harm with the intent to make you fear the entity. It's supposed to scare you to death. And I want to be clear, it does. The reasonable person, the ordinary target individual, has every reason. Okay, the entity engages in kidnapping, criminal defamation, literally making up the information, a demon-possessed state actor that is monitoring you, and then engaging in what is kidnapping you while they're bearing a badge and they're monitoring you under the light source and directed light. The entity is monitoring you in concert with the people, and that's exactly what the Fontana Police Department is captured at 11:50 in the morning while I am at the Fontana Lewis Library in Fontana, California, and under no circumstances is the sun going to be over Alvarado Gardens at the same time. time. So understand how I am surrounding an entire entity with the evidence of this, and you're looking at terrorism that I documented at the same time in Fontana, California, and you're witnessing terrorism as I'm subject to that same entity acting via the demon-possessed and corrupt law enforcement agency, the LAPD, who, and I want to be clear, they are in every way, it is impossible for them to be any sort of guard or safety net. They are literally incriminating their partner, which are the people of the state. And that's why you have what is an unnatural environment. Under no circumstances is the sun going to be here, let alone here all day. Remember, the entity is rising the sun and setting the sun in alignment to my apartment, aiming what is not even sunlight, not only into the depths, but on the ceilings and on all the walls, creating multiple shadows, while they are then stalking in helicopters day and night, which is a well-documented pattern of conduct by the people of the state and the entity acting directly through these corrupt law enforcement agencies. It is currently 11:56 a.m. and this is the maintenance of the light sources. I'm documenting the ongoing terrorism documented by the LAPD and the Fontana Police Department at the same time. All right, it is currently, again, 11:56 at 1810 North Alvarado Street. This is documentation against the people that say, all of whom I just documented, acting directly with corrupt law enforcement agencies. They're going to federal prison. And so let me make the picture even bigger for you. I only go to the extent of showing those that want to cross path. For example, Iris Carnero, a group stalker that likes to use her children, lives at a crime scene. That's relevant for the ways in which she's going to be prosecuted and acting on behalf of an entity. But I want to be clear, while I'm standing in front of her apartment and LAPD flies over my head and flies across my path in relevant position, she is engaging in the pattern of conduct with the corrupt law enforcement agency. So don't miss that. But you're talking about, and it's not even feasible, and I do not think that it's an answer to put everybody in federal prison, and that's not even feasible. It's not feasible, and it's not the answer. But you are in every way addressing those that want to, in your face, threaten the targeted individual. In addition, what is the enhancement? The enhancement for federal prosecution here under these facts is that the entity is monitoring one who is documenting it. Once documentation begins, the entity is posing an impermissible threat, at which point anything that they do is grounds of federal prison. The government has no basis to engage in monitoring and then pose that threat to you, the highest threat to literally communicate. I don't care that you're documenting and trying to enforce your rights. I'm still going to monitor you and group stalk you and be in concert with the people. And a government doing that in the first place is a threat to your life and your safety and your liberty, your overall well-being. Okay, so understand the significance of what the entity is doing, and don't miss the fact that they are still acting with LAPD while they are living next door on the property over there, while they are inside of their apartments. I go so far in order to explain what it is that you're looking at. Demons, third-party group stalkers, state actors that are in your face. I mean, in the elements, in front of the targeted individual's face, as though that you will get away with and you will not. Acting with a corrupt law enforcement, that law enforcement agency isn't even going to exist, let alone get away with what they're doing, and the people of the state will not either. Okay, so I just want to make sure I point that out to you. This is documentation of the Fontana Police Department and the Los Angeles Police Department. The entity is maintaining this light source for the duration of the day. All right, that Fontana Police Department you're talking about grounds of ongoing documented terrorism, okay? Just like you see LAPD doing in the specific environment, the same are not occurring at the same time. This is not visible over the Fontana Lewis Library. This is exactly where it's at, exactly where you see my shadow. At the Fontana Lewis Library is not gonna create any light on my window, not gonna create any engineered light through the crack of the door. The entity is aiming engineered light specifically here. The entity is maintaining a light source here, which is not the sun, nor was it the sun while I was at that facilitating venue of the Fontana Lewis Library, which is a state facilitating venue, by the way. That's not a third party. That's the state acting. San Bernardino County Library. San Bernardino County is monitoring American citizens. That's what you know about that. That's what that tells you. All right. It is currently 11:59 a.m. and this is P.O.C.